Hey, Charles, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. I'm doing okay. There's a lot going on with me personally that I don't want to tell all the stories about yet, but I'm doing okay. I just bought a new toilet, so I got that going for me.
Hey, what prompted you to buy a new toilet?
Well, I'm glad you asked and embarrassed. So my current toilet is 7 years old, and RV toilets are mostly made out of plastic. And so they can get discolored, and I don't just mean from poop, but just, white plastic after it's exposed to the sun. Because I got a skylight in my restroom, stuff starts to turn yellow and starts to get grimy and just starts to get old and nasty looking and brittle and stuff like that. And so this morning I was thinking to myself, you know what? I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to get some, big rubber gauntlets that, cover my arm up to my elbow almost, and some steel wool, and really go to work on this toilet and make it look better. And then I go on Amazon and like a brand new toilet's $175. So I'm like, how much is my time and my effort worth? Instead of trying to dress up this pig and put lipstick on it, I'm just going to throw it in the dumpster and install a new toilet. And if 6 or 7 years later that one gets nasty, then I'll just pick that one up and throw it away and put a new toilet in then. So screw it. That's where I'm at.
I'm a little disappointed in you that you didn't donate it to Goodwill.
Used RV toilet. I'll see if I can cram that into one of the donation boxes.
They take anything.
I'll see if I can fit it into one of the donation boxes in the Walmart parking lot. That's so gross. So yeah, I actually I found it cheaper than Amazon over at Camping World. Not the stadium, but one of the stores, the one over toward Tampa, between Lakeland and Tampa. They had it for even cheaper than Amazon. It's like $174. And I used my PayPal Pay in 4 promo. And hopefully they'll email me after we're done with the podcast and say, hey, it's ready to pick up, and I'll be able to go get it and do this today before we meet up later tonight. And I'll have a brand new toilet in my bathroom.
Fantastic. Nothing like shitting on a new toilet.
Nothing like it. Correct. And hopefully the installation is not too difficult. It doesn't look very complex. There's basically just a hole in the ground and a hose that brings fresh water into the bowl when you flush it. So I can't imagine it's going to be too hard to replace. Okay. But we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't expect you have anything
just yet.
I'm sure you don't have anything that exciting going on, but why don't you tell me anyway?
Let's see. No, I don't. I did get back from a recent trip to Las Vegas to go see my half sister. So that was kind of cool. And afterwards went to see my dad in New Jersey for a couple of weeks, helped take care of some stuff up there, and really kind of refined how to work remotely. So that's one of the best things that came out of that trip was figuring out how to do the podcast remotely, how to do all of my Exchange Tech work remotely. I used to do that a little bit more often, and I just fell into different habits where, here I've got my 4 monitors and it's real easy to kind of move stuff around, and you just get in these habits of working a certain way. And then when you're down to one little laptop monitor, it definitely inhibits things and makes things a little bit more difficult. So sometimes even just getting started on, I write a lot of documentation, a lot of that my brain is just like, I don't want to do this on this tiny little monitor. I need, to pull in, I need to see all these screens. I need to see all this data and stuff like that. So I did find an application to, it's called Duet Display, and allows my iPad to act as a second monitor to my Windows laptop. So
cool.
That gave me enough screen, geography, to basically able to do what I needed to do. So, I feel a little bit more confident being able to work work remotely and be able to take maybe some longer vacations where I can, work a little bit as well. So that's what's been going on with me.
Cool. That sounds good. I recently bought an iPad mini to see if I could use it as basically as my laptop replacement. And I haven't decided yet if it's going to be possible for that, but I have decided that it is a really cool additional device to have where that size and that functionality, I think I can definitely find a space for that in my both working on the podcast and my day job. So I think I'm going to keep it, and I think I'm going to be able to wring some value out of it, even if I don't make it my full laptop replacement, because the keyboard that I got for it is very small. It's usable, but I like to joke to tell people that, well, it's not really a joke. It's mostly true. The only class I paid attention to in high school was typing. And then after, basically they had a typing 2 and a typing 3 course, which were really just teaching you how to use Microsoft Works, which is the free version or cheap version of Microsoft Office before it was Office. And really in all 4 years of high school, the only classes I gave a damn about were typing and Business Computer Applications 1 and Business Computer Applications 2. And so I am a fast typist. I used to be right around 100 words a minute when I was really in the mix. And I can't get anywhere near that kind of performance on that little tiny keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm still okay on it, but anyway, with what you said about the second screen, I think, that iPad mini, it's small, but I could definitely see some potential just sitting it next to my iMac, which is what I use when we record the podcast, and having it, even if I just have it over there with Outlook open or, just something, some application that I want to be aware of, even a web browser with Gmail or something like that, so that as stuff comes in, I can see it. I'm definitely going to, and I'm sure that there's probably a bajillion apps if you've got a Mac and you've got an iPad to make those two talk together as far as a second monitor. I'm sure the sky's the limit. So I'm definitely going to check that out. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah. It works really well. It automatically connects after it goes to sleep, and it comes back up on the iPad automatically. So it's very smooth. And it's been very reliable, and I've been impressed with it so far. So, and it's not crazy expensive. So
cool.
Yeah. It's funny you should bring up typing, and my buddy Mike that we talked to the other day for some video help.
Yeah.
Who does listen to the podcast, by the way. So thanks, Mike, for helping us out with that. He's going to remember this as well. So in junior? No, it was high school. Our first, I think, as freshmen, we had a mandatory typing class that we had to take. And this woman was, I don't want to say a Nazi, but let's just say she was a little strict. Okay. Let's say, and so like she would yell at you if she caught you looking at the keyboard, so you needed to look at the document you were typing. But thankfully I am so grateful that she was that strict, because now I don't have a problem typing at all. I'm pretty quick with it. And, I see some of these people with the two fingers still doing the keyboard and stuff.
Me crazy.
I feel so bad for them, because it's just like, oh my gosh, like that's going to really slow you down.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that she is one of 3 triplets that all taught. This has been, I guess, a couple of years ago now, since I was in high school. But all taught typing.
Interesting.
It was very interesting. Yes. And her name, Mike will probably remember, because she was a scary woman.
Now, what kind of computers was your typing class on? Do you remember?
Oh boy. They were like they might've been 386s.
Okay.
They may have been.
Yeah. We had a room full of Tandy computers, and I think they were probably 386s. And, they had those mechanical keyboards back when mechanical was the only kind, where every time you hit a key it clicked. And it's funny, I like to tell people I graduated high school. Well, I dropped out of high school, but if I didn't drop out of high school and take my GED before my peers actually graduated, I would have graduated in 96. And the computer science classes that we had at my high school in 96 were still using TRS 80s as the
oh my gosh,
or trash 80s as we like to call them. And that is a technology that was at least 15 years old at the time, and that's what we were learning to program in BASIC on, was these TRS 80s. And
wow.
The typing class got the way better computers out of I think it was because the guy who taught multiple levels of math and computer science, that was the only hardware he knew how to use. So they couldn't upgrade to something else because that's all he knew how to use.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we had those dot matrix printers too that would take 12 years. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that. And the good thing was a lot of the formulas and stuff that we learned in Microsoft Works spreadsheet app still to this day work in Excel. I mean,
that's nuts.
The basic formulas haven't changed much. So they all still kind of, spreadsheets are still spreadsheets. But anyway, yeah, I type fast. I don't type fast on my little iPad mini keyboard, but I still like that it has a keyboard that I can use, and it's good. Oh, a couple things I wanted to share with you. I bought a few books off of eBay that I have not yet read, and I paid for the cheapest free shipping possible, and they took a while to get here, but now I've got them. I wanted to share them with you. I haven't read them yet, so I can't endorse them or tell people to buy them. The first one is Man-Made: The Art of Male Grooming by Dan Jones.
Okay.
And it's pretty good. It's got a lot of nice pictures and talks about your skin and your body and your face and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting into that one. And it's small, so I will probably be able to pack it when I go on a trip or something. I also got let's see. I can't see this. The Target 20% off sticker, which again, I bought it used off eBay, so it covers up the author's name. So give me a second to look up who the author is. Okay. Garrett Muntz has written Self-Care for Men, How to Look and Feel Great.
Interesting.
And so also kind of a compact book. Let me go through this one and read some of the chapter titles to you. It looks pretty one. Part 1 is mind. Part 2 is wellness. Part 3 is body. Part 4 face. Part 5 hair. Part 6 spirit, and Part 7 space. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. And the last one, which this is a book I've owned this book before, and now I own it again. And it is mostly good for it's like a coffee table book called The Gentleman's Guide to Grooming and Style by Bernard Retzel. And man, it will make you want some very expensive clothes.
I bet.
There's
just from the cover.
Oh, yeah.
The cover just screams expensive clothes. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I like this guy whose little weekend bag, his little Louis Vuitton weekend bag is sitting there in the corner next to him. And yeah, I really, this is a good book to read, but yeah, it will definitely make you want to spend a lot of money on clothes. The only brand in here that I've become a regular consumer on that I can kind of afford is Allen Edmonds for dress shoes, because now we have an Allen Edmonds store over at the Mall at Millenia. And their shoes generally run, I'd say $250 to $450 a pair. But when you buy a pair of their shoes, they will literally last you a lifetime, because they have resoling services where you can send them off to have them resoled, and they'll refinish the leather. And yeah, you buy.
Have you had to do any of that yet?
I've got a pair that needs to have it done. The first pair of their shoes I bought were Italian calfskin horse bit loafers. So they're very much a Gucci style moccasin, and the soles are ready to have some work done on them. I just haven't sent them off yet. Right now they're just kind of sitting in my closet with a pair of shoe trees in them, and I'm just not wearing them very often. But I need to send them off, and it's about $100 to get them. Well, that's what it was last time I checked. It could be more expensive than that now, but they really, I mean, they send them back and they're almost like a brand new pair of shoes.
Did you feel like you wore them enough to justify?
Yeah, I wore them constantly. Yeah,
oh,
for sure.
Good.
And the uppers still look amazing on them. But the soles, they're just leather soles, and so they do wear out. Now, they do offer other sole choices besides leather. Like you can get rubber soles, and you can get a mix of leather and rubber. And I imagine if you opted for those, you could probably go even longer without having to send the shoes in. But these shoes I got, that pair that needs the work done are probably 16 years old. So I got them a long time ago, and they just, within the last couple of years have needed the work done that I just haven't bothered to send them in yet. But, yeah, they're good. They're good quality. And I think this book, even like of the 3 tiers of men's shoes that are worth buying, Allen Edmonds is probably in the 2nd or 3rd tier as far as the quality and the cost.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So there's another brand called Churches that we don't have any stores in Orlando. So I'm hesitant to spend a lot of money on a pair of shoes if I can't, see what the store looks like and see what the salespeople sound like and stuff like that. But I always wanted a pair of Churches. But until I live in a place where I can, go to one of the stores, I'm not going to spend the money on them. They're even more expensive. Okay, so those are some cool books that I'm looking forward to getting into at some point. But yeah, so clearly I've got a lot going on. I got new toilets, I got new books. Hell's a poppin', as they say.
I've not heard this. What? Hell's a poppin'?
Hell's a poppin'. That's that's a colloquialism I heard a few years ago on a radio show that basically means there's a lot going on. Hell's a poppin'.
Okay, all right.
I like using old timey colloquial phrases. Okay. Let's talk about our book. We're still in the same book. And like we talked about before we started recording, it's long and these chapters are short and we spend a lot of time talking on each topic. And I think there's good stuff in here that people hopefully are enjoying. I'm ready for a new book, but I enjoy the conversations we have. So
me too.
Let's talk about all the stuff you and I do wrong when it comes to texting and calling women. Well, I'm going to turn my air conditioner down just a little bit. I'm a little cold.
Sounds good.
Okay. There we go. All right. So here's the deal. Me and you spend too much time talking to girls, whether we're, trying to meet somebody new that we're dating or an existing relationship with a girlfriend. We spend too much time using the phone and using text messages to communicate things other than just logistics of when we're going to spend time together next, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
There is a real pseudo empty calorie version of intimacy that you can experience with a girl when you spend a lot of time texting that feels good to us because it feels like connection. It feels like intimacy. It feels like a way to increase our mutual attraction. But ultimately, I think a day or two later, it can feel like, why did I waste all that time? And I think it can feel that way for her and for you. Like, why did I stay up all night texting with this girl and, talking about all these important, deeply personal topics. And now, when we meet for coffee or we go on a date, what's there going to be, it's hard to roll back to just talking about the weather or did you like that new movie? If you spend a lot of time talking about your hopes and your dreams and your goals and, what you're working on and what you're passionate about, you do all that over text and then you get together in person and everything feels shallow in comparison to that. Right. And
I am absolutely guilty of that.
Yeah, me too.
100%. Multiple times.
Yeah. And every time you meet a new girl that you're excited about, you do it and you tell me about it.
Yeah. And I think part of the problem to doing that, is you're removing any type of mystery. You're removing any type of, emotional tension. There's no cliffhanger, right? There's no what's next. What else is there? Right. And there's no space or environment to create that longing, which is another way of saying attraction, right? When we're watching some sort of series, when we're binging on some sort of, Netflix reality show, like The Ultimatum or Married at First Sight, whatever your cup of tea is, sometimes, it's the preview of the next episode that gets you excited for the next episode.
Oh, yeah.
And they, a lot of times, will purposely put clips together one after the other to make it seem like something is happening. And then when you actually watch the episode, you're like, oh, that was nothing.
Yes,
you know, you're like,
absolutely.
oh, those mother effers just totally roped me in, but you still keep coming back for more.
Yeah, I'm actually watching a documentary right now. I'm a few episodes in. I had it on while I was cleaning my place up yesterday. Shiny Happy People. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. What's that
it's
about?
It's a documentary about the Duggar family from 19 Kids and Counting.
Oh,
And all the weird, dark shit that is kind of going on in that family.
wow.
The thing that blows my mind, and some of the people on the show said this too, like, how could the dad in particular in that family know all of the stuff that's going on in the background with his oldest son, you know, molesting his sisters, and just, oh yeah, there was crazy stuff going on. It's like, how could you know that had already happened and still invite a camera crew into your house and think like, oh, well, none of that stuff's going to get out. It's not going to become known. It's not going to become an issue. Like, the hubris and it just blows my mind that knowing you've got those skeletons in your closet and you're inviting someone in your house and you're like, hey, take a tour of all the closets and, you know, let's make us famous. And it's nuts. And some of the,
Wow.
some of the stuff, some of their religious ideas that motivated some of their behaviors. I mean, they are well outside of the mainstream of, you know, modern evangelical Christianity, some of the stuff they believe. And it's kooky. And the way that they controlled or tried to control this image that they were putting out there, knowing all the while that there was stuff under the surface that did not match up. It feels like a form of psychopathy. It's crazy, but very compelling. And when they talk about how, you know, the camera crews and the producers would manipulate real life to look like something that would sell advertising and make for compelling episodes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, that's the point. That's what I think when we get into this text only or voice only communication paradigm, it's hard not to try to manipulate and massage the interactions in a way where we come across in our best but least authentic light to the person that we're talking to, on both sides.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why this is such an issue for people is because the way our brains work and the way that our phones work. And I was just kind of thinking about this, where we're getting a little dopamine hit when we see those 3 little dots come up on our phone, like, oh, they're writing back, right? And you kind of get excited and you get addicted to that. And it's the same thing with social media. You get kind of addicted to people commenting or liking or any type of interaction. Our brain changes that or takes that and basically creates some sort of dopamine hit. And that basically requires that hormone makes us want to do it again and repeat that behavior. And it's kind of a craving hormone. And so I believe when we start, the more interactions that we have, the more addicted we really become. And especially if these are messages, it's not just getting a message and getting that response. So I think that's one dopamine hit, but then depending on what's being said, are they flirting? Where is it? And then it's kind of a mystery. Are they going to be like, are they going to start to get a little bit, sexy? Is it going to be, like a sexting thing? Where is it going?
Right.
Is it a joke? And then now we've got all the different types of emojis and little gifts and everything else that we can send to add humor or sexiness or additional interactions and dimensions to that conversation. And so I can see how it's a slippery slope. And that's how I've gotten. That's I'm guilty of that. I'm absolutely guilty of that.
And another trap of it that we don't think about as often is, it is a super easy tool for a woman to use to test a man and unsettle a man and see how he reacts to that. And, even just saying that, I think there's a negative connotation there where, a lot of guys are resentful that women will test them and try to unsettle them and try to shake them and see what happens. And It's like, guys, no, that's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way that mating between men and women is supposed to work. Women are supposed to evaluate men and test men and prevent themselves from getting in a situation where they reproduce with the wrong guy who doesn't have the ability to provide for them and protect their kids. And I know that it can be stressful to think about that happening, but it's not a right thing or a wrong thing that women do. It's something they have to do and something that we need them to do in order to keep the human experiment going. And the best thing to do is to understand it and embrace it and get comfortable with it and realize that, look, if you stayed up all night talking to a girl on text and the next morning you send her a good morning and she doesn't respond immediately, she waits a few hours, that whether she's doing it on purpose or whether she's doing it subconsciously, it's something she needs to do and she should do to make sure that you're not overinvested, you're not clingy, you're not going to be somebody who gets too emotional and can't be emotional in a bad way. I mean, there's nothing wrong with emotions, but somebody who gets rocked and starts behaving in an undesirable and attractive way. I mean, that's how it's supposed to work. And these little devices that we carry around with us are a great tool for women to have to say, okay, I need to check in with this guy and make sure that he's not going to get weird or get flaky or get clingy. And so I will either send something that will potentially activate him or just not send anything that will potentially activate him and see what happens, see how he handles it. And,
well said. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, again, it's easy to say, well, that's not fair. She's playing games with me. It's like, no, you're playing games with her too, when you're trying to reveal yourself and engage in these long conversations. You're doing something to get the result that you want when you are spending all this time texting with her, and her replying in a way or choosing not to reply. It's the other steps in the same dance. And you need to kind of just acknowledge that and be comfortable with it. And honestly, have enough going on in your life and in your romantic life and in your dating pursuits that you don't let stuff like that shake you and freak you out and turn you into a guy who's, sending 6 unreplied to messages in hopes that she'll respond to you. And, yeah, I don't know what else to say except, it's the best way to avoid that is not make your phone such a tool that you rely on, and you won't give her so much power to impact your state of mind if you haven't set that phone up to be this security blanket when it comes to your relationship with her.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And like you said, the easiest way to do that is to have a lot of other things going on in your life so that you don't even have time to spend on the phone. You're busy out living life, doing things and interacting with people in real life, in person. And so that way you don't even have the time to even sit there and twiddle your thumbs, go, well, I'm bored, so I'm just going to pick up my phone and go through that. Right. Yeah.
And really the antidote is really just a form of sort of perpetual all day mindfulness. When you're at work, focus on your career. When you're at the gym, focus on getting in shape. And when you're, watching your favorite show, watch your favorite show, and don't spend all your time, obsessing over whether she, is she online on Facebook right now? Is she on Instagram right now? Are those 3 dots about to appear where I can feel like she's about to send me a message? I mean, just, engage in the thing that you're doing and give it all of your attention. And also, don't treat this relationship as if it's your only source of joy or contentment or being fulfilled, whether it's brand new, somebody you just met that you're super excited about, or whether it's, your partner of multiple years. Just, you gotta attack all these areas of your life with this passion and this interest, so that when any one of them gets out of whack or makes you uncomfortable, you don't fly off the rails and start acting weird.
Yeah. And the best way to do that is to do some sort of mindfulness practice on a regular basis so that you can be present, so that you can feel urges and allow them to pass, not resist them, but allow them to be there and feel uncomfortable, and then still remain what you're, focused on what you're doing. and just kind of get used to getting those waves of uncomfortable feelings. And it's similar to when you're trying to eat a little bit better, and eliminate snacking. And so you're going to have, waves of hunger might come, but if you're truly hungry, the waves will keep coming after, 5 minutes or so. But if it's just, maybe you're a little thirsty and you're confusing that for hunger, if you're bored, or you're, maybe you're tired or you're emotionally exhausted, you may have some similar waves coming, across. And so you just learn to, feel it. And if it passes, it'll pass in like a minute or two. And if it passes, then you don't eat. If it keeps coming after about 5 minutes, then have something to eat at that point, right? But have like a full meal. But same thing, right? If you're feeling that urge to pick up the phone, and we're trained, we have to untrain ourselves to respond to the phone that interrupts us while we're doing something. And so a lot of times, the best thing Apple did was put on the do not disturb function, and, the being able to customize, the screen so you don't get notifications and you don't get alerts, and, only certain people can contact you, like your emergency contacts, things like that. I use that all the time. And sometimes even that's not enough. And sometimes I got to put the phone out of the office, or I turn it upside down so the screen isn't up. And it's a little hack, but looking at the screen, just the view of the screen sometimes can be enticing enough for me to pick up the phone, even when there's nothing on it. If it's just
for sure.
So turning it over face down, that's helpful. I'll take every little bit of help I can get.
Yeah, it's they know what they're doing with these devices, and there's a lot of good and a lot of bad that can come from our dependence on them. Maybe not, I don't know, if we use the word dependence, and there's probably not a lot of good. I mean, they are certainly convenient, and productivity, in both your personal passions and your career, your productivity is definitely influenced in a positive way by having access to all this communication and all this information. But it can also be, you can make life rough on yourself by just using it the way that the tech companies want you to use it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tool just like anything else. And there's a number of ways that it can be used. And there is a lot of training that you need to do to be able to use it the most effective way for you. And that takes some time and getting out of your comfort zone to learn that and feel that and untrain yourself from by just picking up the phone. It was kind of like the Wild West free for all. And we got, addicted to, the badges and the dings and the vibrations and the pop-ups and everything else the thing does.
No. Yeah, absolutely. And, it's a weird society-wide experiment that none of us opted into, but we're all participating in. And, we'll see where it goes. Okay. So, I like that he starts off this section of the book, this chapter, with some very practical advice, which is this: you meet somebody new, you get her phone number. Here's exactly what the first text you should send her should be. Hey, it was nice to meet you. Not, hey, it was nice to meet you, you're an amazing woman. Not, hey, it was nice to meet you, let's grab a drink after work. Just, hey, it was nice to meet you. And then the way she responds to that will tell you how interested she is in ever seeing or talking to you again. And if she doesn't respond to, hey, it was nice to meet you, then you die of old age before you send her another message.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah, the mistake a lot of guys make, and I would say, I mean, one of the things he says in here that I do disagree with is 95% of men get a woman's contact details and immediately ask the woman out on a date. In my experience and in my circle of guys, no, the opposite is true. Guys will meet a girl, get her contact information, talk to her forever, and never or barely ever get around to asking for a date. So it shouldn't be your first message to say, hey, let's have a date. And it shouldn't be your 1 millionth message. It should be somewhere on the early side of that, on the very early side. I would typically say within 5 to 10 messages, you should suggest the idea of getting together, but it shouldn't be the first message, and you shouldn't wait for her to ask you out, or you shouldn't wait for, for her to be your best friend before you ask her out. It should be somewhere in between.
Yeah, I agree.
And keep your messages short too. Long messages make you look not strong and confident. Whatever the opposite of that is what long, blocks of text make you look like. It makes you look like somebody who's plenty of time and plenty of interest in somebody that you just met. When you just meet somebody, even if you have a great time hanging out with them, the proper level of investment is, hey, it was nice to meet you. Not, hey, it was nice to meet you. Here's my life story.
Right. Yeah. They need to earn that. Not everybody just gets that.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the way it should be, for sure. Let's see. The other thing that is clear that you and I have talked about a lot is that when a woman is interested in you, she will be in touch and she will work as hard or harder than you to pursue future interactions. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this plenty of times. If a woman is busy with work or with a family situation or whatever, if she's interested in you, she will still find time to talk to you and see you. And how do I know that? Because if I'm interested in a woman and I'm busy with work or busy with family, I will still find time to talk to or see her. And so this isn't some game where, it's men sitting around saying we have to make these women jump through hoops. What we have to expect is for people who are as interested in us to act as interested in us as we are in them. And there should be a parity between how much you're willing to invest to see her, to hang out with her, to talk to her, and how much she's willing to do that for you. Because if there's not parity, if she's chasing you down all the time, then that should communicate to her that you're not as interested in her as she is in you, and vice versa. If you're chasing her down all the time to try to hang out with her, then she's not as interested in you as you are in her.
Yeah, it's not rocket science. It's not any different than any other relationship that you've got with somebody like a friend or a family member, where if because you care about them or they care about you, they're going to be fairly responsive, and it's not going to be, you don't need to like pester them over and over again to get a response.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, if any of my, it's happened with a couple of friends where that is the case, where they don't respond, and all of a sudden they're not friends anymore. Right. Because it's just, that's, they weren't interested. They weren't putting any kind of effort in. And so, all right, well then now you go your separate ways. And it's the same thing when you want something, you're not going to just go, oh, I was waiting for you to respond. Like, no, you're going to make some sort of minimal effort. And so of course, the woman's going to do the same.
Yeah. Even if I'm very busy with a work situation, if there's someone I want to see and someone I want to spend time with, I will suggest, okay, this week's going to be crazy, but, let's get together after dinner, or let's get together for breakfast, or I'll try to figure out a way to make it happen where her and I can spend some time with each other. And if you're the only one doing that and she's not suggesting similar kinds of arrangements to see you, then that means that the interest level is not the same. And so what can you do? There's really only one thing you can do in that situation, which is to back off. And when you back off, either she'll back off too, and you guys just won't talk anymore, or your backing off will inspire her to do a little bit of chasing on her end. And so she will inconvenience herself a little to spend time with you. And both of those are a win, because both of those tell you more about where you stand with this person than you currently know. And that's really what it should all be. It reminds me, I'm going through another book right now called Permission to Feel, which is all about, emotional intelligence and being able to recognize your own feelings and be able to regulate your emotions. And this guy, he uses so much of the same language that BJ Fogg uses in Tiny Habits, where it's like, instead, don't find yourself being an emotion judge, find yourself being an emotion scientist. And so, approach things from the perspective of, not, I'm feeling this way and that's not okay. Instead, I'm feeling this way. I wonder what that means. I wonder where that's coming from. And just, trying to take a step back and look at things as someone who's just in it to gather more information, not someone who's in it to make yourself, through white knuckling and gritting your teeth, I'm going to make myself the kind of person I want to be. No, it's just take a step back from yourself and watch how things are affecting you and how it's making you feel. And then once you do that, then you can make better decisions instead of judging everything and criticizing everything.
Yeah. And I think the problem with that approach is with judging and criticizing is it's based on information that you're making assumptions about.
Right.
You don't have a full, complete picture. Whereas if you take that kind of experimental scientist mindset, you are focusing on gathering information and hopefully doing it without any judgment or as minimal judgment as possible to basically make a better decision. And I'm usually of the opinion of in any situation is the more information you have, the better decision you can make.
Right.
As long as it doesn't cause paralysis from analysis, which I'm absolutely guilty of as well.
Yeah, that's a separate problem, but a valid one. Yeah. So, and it's not, and we're not suggesting being manipulative and running experiments on other, conscious human beings. That's not what we're saying. But if you get a vibe from somebody like, I feel like her interest level may be going down or maybe lower than mine. Maybe I should take, because if a girl's interest level in you is decreasing or is just, from the get-go, not as high as your interest level in her, then the adult and considerate thing to do for both her and yourself is to take a step back and say, all right, I'm going to back off a little bit and see what happens. That's not a manipulative thing to do. That's a respectful thing to do. When somebody says with their actions or their words, hey, I'm feeling a little crowded here. I'm feeling a little smothered. And again, very often we don't actually say those words to people. We show that to people with our actions. Mm-hmm. Then when you detect that's what's going on, then you need to say, okay, well then the appropriate thing and the kind thing for me to do is take a step back and see what happens.
Yeah. You're honoring their request.
Right.
Even if it wasn't verbal
or even conscious, even, if they're communicating that to you with their actions and they may not even know that's what's going on. But yes, it is honoring their request to say, okay, I'm going to back off a little bit. I'm going to give you some time and space and then we'll see what happens. The two of us can figure out what that means and what the next step is based on me acknowledging your need, even if it's an unspoken one, and backing off a little bit. So again, as guys though, at least, knowing myself as well as I do and knowing you as well as I do, I don't know. Are there guys where doing that is just natural, or is this something that we all have to learn?
Oh, I think we all have to learn that. I feel like you learn it at some point. Some people are lucky enough to learn it earlier than later, but we all have to learn that, right? And that's a part of a communication skill. It's learning to read information coming from another human being in some form or another, whether it's verbal or physical or whatever that might be. But it's also learning the proper response. So that's being a productive or a good member of society. I feel when you can respond in the right way. When you don't, you basically show that you don't have a lot of consciousness or social awareness, I should say, right? If you then are missing the message and you are continuing you're in your own world, that's what it's going to kind of come across as if you are continuing to pursue someone who's pulling away.
Right, because
you're just not getting it.
Yeah,
right?
And the message you're sending is it's more important for me to soothe myself than it is to pay attention to what you need.
Right. Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Correct.
And if you're a man whose primary function is to, or your go-to, your primary reaction is, I need to soothe my emotions in this situation, not handle the thing in the way that it needs to be handled, but rather I need to do whatever behavior in the short term will soothe me and make me feel better. You're not somebody. You're not a high value mate that can be counted on in the future. If when adversity comes, your first thing is, I need to make myself feel better by any means possible. You're not the kind of person that somebody's going to look at as a serious contender for starting a family with, and really, remember evolutionarily when it comes to dating or relationships or whatever, the lens you're going to be judged in is, are you a suitable mate for reproducing with?
Yeah. And can I, and yeah, right. And, women have, a lot of emotions that they deal with. And the last thing they want to have to do is deal with yours as well. Right.
Yes. And there is something to be said for, having a partner that you can co-regulate with and you guys can, work through emotions and feel better. But yeah, the idea that you're a child in a man's body who's powerful enough to kill her with your bare hands, but you also need to be coddled and comforted. Yeah, that is not what any woman I know is looking for.
Yeah.
It's something. I mean, in an established relationship, there is a way that you set up interactions where you guys can help regulate each other's difficult emotions. But again, an overgrown man child who's given to doing whatever he has to do in the moment to make himself feel better is not what any woman is looking for, as far as I've met. So in that sort of in that area, remember this, especially early in a relationship, if you message a woman and you don't get a response from her, it means one thing: she's not interested right now in going any deeper with you. And it really doesn't matter beyond that. There's no information you need beyond that.
Okay.
To know.
Hold up. Hold up. You just used a term where you could add a little confusion to people here because you said right now.
Right.
And when I hear that, I'm thinking, oh, you mean there's still you 1 in a million chance? Oh, you mean there's still a chance? Right. Like, so I think I'll let you finish your sentence, but I want you to get into that, like a little bit more about the right now statement.
Okay. The right now. No, we'll jump into that right now. She has decided that it is not worth it to respond to you. And so as a man, what your job is to do is not be affected by that in a negative way, not act out, not word vomit about how inappropriate it is for her not to answer you, or who does she think she is, or, any of the weird things that guys have definitely done. I can say those aren't things that I do or have ever done. But I'm only a step away from doing that on a bad day. It's just nothing that I've done with so far. But your job is, when you don't hear back from a girl, it means that she's not ready right now to pursue anything deeper with you. And the only time that changes for the positive is by you leaving her alone and letting her decide that it's time to change the timing of getting deeper with you. So there's nothing you can do to an unresponsive woman to make her responsive, except leave her alone. And then she will possibly at some point down the road be like, oh, that time he messaged me and I didn't respond to him, he didn't freak out. He didn't get weird. So maybe he's the kind of guy that a month or a year down the road, I can say, hey, how's it going? And he's not going to freak out at me.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're clear here. So when you say right now, the proper response is not to check in with her.
Nope. Definitely later? Not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. Again, sure. the die of old age before you double text still stands.
Got it.
But be aware that if you don't get thirsty, if you don't get needy, if you don't get clingy, if you don't get weird when she doesn't respond to your first message, there's always a chance that something's going to happen down the road where she thinks, oh yeah, that guy I met that time who sent me one message and then left me alone, that seemed like a pretty cool guy. Maybe I should check in with him and see, what he's up to. Is he still single? Is he still living in this area? Where if you double, triple, quadruple text her for not responding to you when you thought she should, then the chances of that interaction, that positive interaction happening down the road, go down to almost zero.
Yeah. Yep.
So yes. And again, the important thing to remember is when a woman does not respond to you and communicates to you that she's not interested, it's not your job to put on your stupid little hat and get out your magnifying glass and turn into Sherlock Holmes to figure out why she didn't message you. It doesn't matter. Maybe she's with somebody. Maybe she's busy. Maybe her AA sponsor told her she shouldn't get into a relationship right now. Whatever the reason is, it's none of your business and it doesn't concern you until she texts you back and and she says, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. And more often than not, you're never going to find out. It's going to be a complete waste of time for you to even go down that path.
Yes, because either she might not tell you the truth. Maybe she doesn't know what the truth is. Maybe it doesn't matter. And yes, you're going to be curious. We all are, but yeah, just leave her alone and let her live her life. And if she decides that there's a spot for you in it down the road, maybe she'll reach out to you and you guys can talk at that point.
Right. It's never going to change the end result. If anything, it's going to make it worse. If you go down that path and you start digging around and you interact with her, or she finds out you are digging around trying to figure out what happened, that does not look good for you.
Yeah. I mean, think about it in terms of, if you're doing some sort of carpentry or working on something in your house and you're trying to nail something and you miss with the hammer and you put a dent in a piece of wood or a dent in a piece of metal. It's like getting out the hammer and I'm going to just keep hitting this until it goes back perfectly straight to the way that it was. It never happens. So there are some things that more effort will just not ever fix.
Yeah, that's true. That's a great point. It's, you already made a mistake, or for whatever reason, stars didn't align.
Right.
Right. You're not going to, force it to all of a sudden get back into alignment.
Yeah, you just can't. So it's just, you just leave it alone. And if she decides she's open to interaction down the road, not being weird with her is the only way that she'll be encouraged and feel comfortable to do that.
Yep.
Let's see. Here's a point that he makes. How it's easy to fall into the trap of texting a woman for hours on end when you're in the early stages of a relationship. But here's why that's hard. You might feel an intense level of desire and comfort when you speak to a woman. You might feel the need to express this desire when you communicate, convinced that doing so will bring the two of you closer together and strengthen the bond between you. But usually it does not do that. I mean, to tell early in a relationship, to tell a woman, something that you find as deeply romantic, like, man, I feel like we have such a connection. I enjoy talking to you so much. I feel like I could tell you anything. It scares women away. I mean, have that conversation with your fiance, with your wife, with your long-term girlfriend, if you want to. I mean, don't do it every day. Don't do it to the point where it gets weird, but dropping stuff like that on a girl early in a relationship, you may even get a positive response in the moment when you do it, but it is going to just add something to the side of that scale that says, okay, this guy is needy, clingy, whatever. And so don't do it. Just, if you are doing that, knock it off.
Just knock it off.
Just quit doing it.
Stop.
Yeah. It does feel like the thing that you could say that would boost intimacy and boost attraction, boost connection. But the downside and the risks of doing it, and again, we're talking about doing this early in a dating relationship. I'm not saying don't tell your wife you love her, but I'm saying when you're first meeting somebody and you're having that impulse to talk to her and stay up all night texting and getting into all of your hopes and dreams and aspirations, and then you're feeling so connected because you guys are sharing so much, and then you feel like you need to offer a meta-analysis of what's going on and tell her how good it makes you feel, and it's not a good thing to do, man. It's bad.
Yep. Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah, so have I. And it's hard to resist sometimes, but you still got to do that. And that just goes, it goes into this, study that he references where, women are most excited and attracted to men when they're feeling, when the man's feelings for them are unknown or uncertain. When, if they know exactly where you stand, meaning, oh yeah, I know that guy doesn't like me. He's not attracted to me. She's not going to be attracted to you. Or, oh, I know that guy, would jump in front of a train with me, even though we only met once at a bar. I know he's super into me and he would do anything to see me again.
Not attractive.
The attraction's not going to be there. It's I enjoyed hanging out with the guy. I'm not sure how he feels about me. That is the thing that seems to generate the most feelings of desire and attraction in women, which makes sense.
The mystery, the unknown,
absolutely.
Allows that space then, and prompts your brain to start imagining things, asking questions, answering these questions, assuming things, right? Now, all of a sudden, all these things are activated. And a lot of times whether it's good or bad, those thoughts generate emotions and feelings, and that's what people are after.
Yeah. And remember that, the rule that attraction grows in space, not in close proximity, it applies across the board, both physical space as well as emotional space. You need a little bit of space because, it's like, we've talked about before when it comes to men in particular dealing with breakups that, what is a statistic? Like 70% of breakups are initiated by women. And a lot of guys find themselves in a position after a breakup where, they want their girlfriend or their wife back. They want their partner back. And the impulse for how to act when that's what you want is almost always wrong, because someone cannot miss you if you're always in their face.
Yeah.
And that's why, adopting a rule of no contact with somebody who has rejected you is always the healthiest thing for you to do, both in your recovery and getting over the relationship, as well as maximizing any chance that you have of getting that person back down the road. You got to just give them space. You got to let them realize and remember, oh yeah, this relationship had problems, but there were some things I liked, and now I don't get those things that I like anymore, and I miss those things. Yeah. Where, if you adopt hey, well, let's be friends, let's still hang out, even though you don't want to be with me anymore type of mindset, then, you don't let that person experience the space of being away from you. And there is no fondly recollecting over the times you had together when you're giving them a light version of that all the time because you're a puppy dog who won't leave them alone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it stands true for a new relationship too. If you're constantly texting and being around that person, then they can never, oh, I wish I was hearing from so-and-so right now, because they're always hearing from you.
Yeah. Right. There's no time for that.
One last thing to remember is, generally speaking, when you get communication from a gal that you're interested in, your responses to her should be of equal or lesser length than her communications to you. Mm-hmm. So if she sends you, a one-word answer about something, then respond with a one-word answer, or just a thumbs up or something like that. Don't, and man, there's so many areas in life that this makes sense. Even if it's, somebody that you're dealing with on a professional level, it's like, yeah, don't give people more than what they're giving to you. Otherwise, it's going to just contribute to even more of an imbalance in your communication with somebody. And that's going to end up making one or both of you uncomfortable. So when you're getting brief conversations from somebody, answer briefly. When you're getting medium or long length, then answer with medium or long length, but never more than that person, because then it puts pressure on them to respond more, or it makes you look desperate, or there's just nothing good that happens when you overindulge in communication with somebody.
Yeah, it's another form of mirroring, which I learned a little bit about from Tony Robbins, who talks about that. But he was talking about like facial expressions, and when you're talking to somebody in person, in terms of, their tone and their speed and everything else in terms of how they're talking. But it holds true when you are also texting or writing emails, things like that. I feel, and I try to do that with a lot of my customers even when they're using the wrong terminology for things. When we're talking about something, I used to correct them because, I like teaching lessons. And so I don't do that anymore. Just because I just picked up on mirroring, and I just felt like our conversations went smoother when I would use the same lingo to describe something that they did, and in my responses. And so, basically, I turned it around and looked at it from their point of view. And if I was dealing with me and somebody purposely used, a different language or words to describe it, I could see myself being perhaps being a little offended. Like you're trying to, you're being a little holier than thou. You're trying to teach me something, and that's not what the conversation's about. Right.
Right.
So I think similar type of thing holds true with, with texting with women and people in general. in terms of also using similar type of language and similar type of, length of response.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's just you want to seem socially aware and socially skilled, especially when you're trying to attract someone and build interest. You want to seem like somebody who knows how to talk to people and knows how to interact with people and knows how to meet people at the level that they're currently at. And just sending somebody a huge wall of text when they're not engaging in that level of communication, it can be off-putting. I mean, I've experienced it from the other side where I'm just having what I feel like is a casual conversation with somebody over text, and they, I see the 3 dots for 5 minutes and then this huge wall of text shows up, and I was like, okay. I mean, even if this isn't, being criticized or there's going to be something a little overwhelming about that because, I mean, honestly, I could skip seeing big walls. If there's that much to say over text, go ahead and let's have a voice conversation, or let's talk in person, or let's put a pin in it until we can talk in person, because that's just a rough, I don't think the medium's good for that. The best thing to use texting for is for setting dates, which is what we're going to talk about in our next episode, and settling on the logistics of, hey, let's get together, not let's deeply analyze the dynamics of our relationship.
Yeah, I need to practice that as well. So I'm looking forward to that one.
All right. Let's leave it there for now. And we will, as I said, the next episode will be setting dates, first dates, follow-up dates. This is a real short one, only a couple pages. So, perfect. Here's what we're going to do next for the next episode. We're going to do setting dates, and then we're also going to do when she flakes and cancels dates.
Oh yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, and we will cover both of those topics in the next episode. All right, Dan, I hope you have a great day. I know, again, you won't have anything as exciting as picking up a new shitter for your domicile, but a few of us do get to have a day that exciting, and I'm looking forward to mine.
Yeah, looking forward to getting together with the guys again tonight for happy hour as well. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. I could definitely use some cheap Shikai sushi tonight, and some club soda with lemon, because I'm still on the wagon.
Delicious.
All right, talk to you later, Dan.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.